Welcome to 42, Two Souls, One Journey, a raw and unedited look into our lives as humans. Based on the 21 grams experiment by Dr. Duncan MacDougall, who concluded that the human soul weighs 21 grams. On this podcast, we will explore that no matter what our lives look like on paper, our souls journey similarly. In this episode, we are speaking to one of the most brutally honest people I know. She gives me spending allowance no matter where we are. She has the power of a white witch and knows when something's wrong and always checks in with me. She's a world traveler. She has a boisterous laugh. She has a classic style and a closet that I can't wait to get my hands on. I regularly call her my drag mother because her fashion style really inspires me when I'm in drag. She's my favorite fooey, Shamim Hojatti. Hello.
Thank you so much for welcoming me this way. I'm so happy to do this for you, with you actually. And I just love what you're doing right now with this journey and very, very happy to be part of it. You, my friend, are a very special person in my life, and I'm so happy that you are in my life.
Well, I feel so like I love this moment because I think we have this like we have what something I call our special one-on-one fooey time. Like it's the fooey and me time, and you are one of the few adults in our lives. Oh, you are an adult in our life who shows up and who shows up exactly how you present yourself. The way you speak, who you speak is you are is how you show up. And you're always supportive. You always, I don't know, like I feel the same way. I feel like a special bond of it with you, and I feel like having the one-on-one time and having to be able to share that now with the world is going to be kind of exciting because I don't know. For me, it's nice. It's part of what my life and my journey has been. And I feel like our souls really connect um, more as we became adults, or as I became an adult.
Thanks.
But there's always something there from the get go. And now we get to get out in the world. So I'm excited. So thank you for being a special person in my life as well and doing this with me.
Oh, amazing, amazing. I love our me times, Pui and Chibik time. I share sometimes with my children because they are also part of your circle. Sometimes I protect it very much and I don't want to share and I just want to have a you time. And I think you also have times with them, which is very healthy and I love it. I think you have a me time almost with each and every one of us at times. We welcome you in our celebrations. We have a quick FaceTime with you. And I think those are important moments to be part of somebody's life and to include diversity and inclusion is a very big part of my life. So I love that.
You know, it's so funny. I love that you brought that point up because I was going to bring up this idea that I learned the one-on-one time. I learned how to do the one-on-one time, but also share with everybody else from you because I always thought that only you and I had special one-on-one time. And then I found out from all the other nieces and nephews that you actually make that time for every one of your nieces and nephews. You are so good at protecting that time to make sure that each of them get a piece of you and a very like again just you and them. And I think that's when I learned that I was like, oh, I get how important that is. Um,
I think when there are more than two people present in a conversation, some of the conversation becomes stilted and not very honest. Let's put it this way. It doesn't become a conversation for everybody, and we don't know what everybody knows and doesn't know. And the niceties we can talk about, of course, but there are, the very basic things that I want to know about you is how are you? How are you feeling? How are you doing? What's your status? Those things perhaps you may not be able to tell me with everybody around, or
right.
vice versa, right? I might not be able to say to you, I feel, oh, today. Do you know what I mean? So I really enjoy one on one times, not just with you, but each of my siblings, even my children. I want one on one times with them, with their spouses, without their spouses, and then with the spouses themselves. I'm trying to encourage that because I think that that makes us close and that's what I like, and I'm very fierce about the people I love. I'm a Cancerian. Family is very important, and those I love I shall defend to the end. How about that one? And love to the end, so yeah.
Um, it's so great 'cause I feel like in this first sentence, you've covered so many other things that I want to talk to you about, right? This idea that, one, family is so important to you. I remember as a kid growing up, you would, like send me links to like our family tree and you would tell me about people in our family. And I wasn't engaged. I don't think until my late 30s, maybe even early 40s, is when I was like, oh, no, my late 30s, because I'm now in my early 40s, is when I started understanding this importance of getting to know your kinship outside of your close circle. And I think Naveed's wedding, which is your son, was the first time I got to meet your sisters and the extended Hirani side of the family, which I can't remember knowing about. I remember knowing about, but never meeting. And you know, uh, it was the first time being like, "Oh my god, like, here are the people who are me and who felt like me from the instant get-go." I didn't have to introduce myself, like, we knew of each other, and I don't know how to explain that to people who haven't been around your family members that you've never met before, but there's an instant like, "Oh, we're part of each other," which I don't think I felt before. I didn't feel as externally until at Naveed's wedding, and then that has propelled for me this like idea that I want to know who the other people are. I don't have to be best friends with all of them. I don't have to have all my one-on-one time. I don't have to have all these things with them, but it's good for me to know who they are because it's important. And I don't still haven't figured out why it's so important, but the feeling was there. And you I feel like from the age of 10 or 11 since we started connecting, you were so good at pointing that out, but I wasn't good at understanding it. Where did that sense do you remember when that sense of family came for you? Like, when was that moment important for you, and why is that so important for you to share that we should know these things?
Right. So family was very important when we lived in Uganda, right? Because we didn't live together with our families. We didn't have the iPhones and the iPads to be able to connect. Phones were very expensive. Car journeys, train rides, etc., was expensive and wasn't done very often. So whenever a family member came to our home, my mother is such a big part of my life anyway, but she's the one who would go out of her way and welcome them and be proud of them and tell us about them. And we also visited uh, um, Kisumu, where my mother's maternal family lived, quite often. And I could see how, in those days they were so connected. But my mother, despite everything that she'd been through, always said that family was very important. And she made it a very big part of our family, whether we got on with them or we didn't get on with them. It was her thing to make sure. And it's because of her that I know so many people that perhaps some of my older cousins don't know, like connections with our Masi who was in Pakistan because they didn't have any connection with our family anymore. We didn't know much about them, but I made it my business. Actually, my mother found out that her nieces were in Houston, and every time she came to Canada or America to my home, I would make sure she went there for a visit. And she kind of connected everybody to us. So even to this day, I have very good connections with my cousins. Who are older than me, some more than others, some that I grew up with, so I kind of have that, real connection. Some that I didn't grow up with, a lot on my father's side. I didn't grow up with them, but there are some that I did, like, those that are in Toronto at the moment. And I'm quite close with them, so that's why. And I think that I like the idea. So every time I came to Toronto, I would gather two sides of the family separately, but gather them all together. It gives me joy. It gives me, a connection. It tells me I am part of a bigger circle. And that circle is not small, it's big. And we make personal connections. And I have some very I don't believe that we can have the same connection with everybody at the same intensity, and that's not the purpose of this. It's first that we have a connection, And secondly, to maintain that connection, you have to have some kind of communication, right?
Right.
And some people, it's very easy. I love that connection part, and that's what I really enjoy. And it's nothing to do. It's just enjoying each other's company, taking great happiness. When a grandchild is born, or when somebody's getting married, I tend to go to all the weddings because I think that's
Yes.
where you meet people. And I think there are two times when it's very important to show up, and that's at birth, weddings, and death, funerals. And I think those, I try my best to do and to get there. Sometimes it's possible, sometimes it's not possible, but yeah, that's the mantra.
Okay, I love. There's so many great things that came out of that. It's like, and like I said earlier, like when you say something, like when you say something, you do something. Like you are like, people like, what's the right, how did I say this properly? Some people say something and they don't show it in their actions. You are the kind of person who will, if you say it, you show it in your actions. And I think like one, like the fact that Fuima, which is your mom, was such a big connector about for all these things, and you've continued that. I always said that you remind me of your mom all the time. And then I met your other sisters and I was like, oh my God, they all remind me of their mom.
Because our mom instilled all that in us, right? So we all belong, and have some all of those kind of values, and we try to emulate. I mean, we'll never be able to do what she did, but at least try to be good and try to connect. And of course, the relationship I have with you is different completely than I would have with any other of my extended families. And that's because both of us connect at a different level, right? I have and I think that it's important to understand you can have connections with everyone, and that's great. And if it deepens with connections to you, or my other nephews and nieces are so dear to me, you can't believe it. It's like, I want the best for them. I want the and I kind of, like you said, white witch. I sometimes feel, as if they are not doing okay or they are doing okay. And I'll just get up and either send them a message or call them or ask for a FaceTime, or just a chat. And that gives me pleasure. And life is not about what people say, people do. I think it's personal. For me, it's how true are you to yourself? And I really don't care what people think of me. I know what I am. um, and in this age, where I am in my life, I'm really happy to know that I really love my people. I try to do the best I can and be honest with myself and with others. And being honest sometimes gets you into trouble, as we both know. And but I still stand by it. I'm not that it's the truth, and I'm not going to hide behind it, or I'm not going to make up because of other things. It is what it is. And I really learned this, that you have to be accountable. So being accountable for your actions, being accountable for what you say, what you do, I try to instill in my children, because I think that's such a big part. And I'm so happy at the moment that my children are at an age where we have conversations, we have difficult conversations. And that's the part we need to learn, that we can have difficult conversations without falling out with each other,
Yeah.
without, and that's all part of very good communications. And as I grow, and we all grow every day, I'm really enjoying the friendship part now. My children part is I'm done with. I don't tell them what to do. Of course, when they ask, I will. And of course, as a mother, you always have their, interest, and you tell them what to do. But it's at a point where we can have adult discussions. We can have, different points of opinions, not agree, disagree, but all in a very good environment. And I think that wasn't taught in our culture, in our families. and that you learn. And I'm very happy that we are at a point where we are.
You've covered again, I think so it was beautiful. Like we talk about one, I think things that we haven't learned from our parents. And again, I think it's a learned behavior, right? They picked up what they learned from their parents. And we get an opportunity in a generation to sort of say, great, here's some of the choices I'm going to make. I'm going to take all the great things my parents taught me, then I'm going to make these choices to make sure that the next generation carries new habits forward. And I think, me and my sisters have made that commitment to make sure that our next generation is very similar to the kind of things you've done with your kid. Like, let's have open communications. Let's be honest. If you're going to say it, you have to do it. You're accountable for that. And then you show up when you people need you to show up. You show up. And you're right. Births, weddings, and funerals are like three of the pinnacle points of people's lives, and places where we're invited to come show up. Um, and you are very great at sort of saying, I'm coming, and you show up. And you don't show up 100%. I think one of the things that I remember as a kid about you was that I remember, like, because you were so different, like, like I think a lot of our family and a lot of people follow a very specific mold. You don't follow a lot of that mold. You definitely a lot of the stuff is grounded and instilled in you, but you are great at, let's say, you're kind of the black sheeping these things. And I think that's kind of what like, I think that's maybe what my soul attracted to your soul. I was like, oh, this is a person who is doing all, like, the part of all this, but also has her own voice, is creative on her own, and does her own thing that's different from status quo. Um, but, yeah, I think that is what's, even though I think we thought it was the black sheep thing, but now I think that is that's what makes you different. That's what actually makes you more progressive and what's allowed you to be able to look at some of the old stuff, know where we're going forward, and instill those in your kids. And I have been lucky enough to sort of see that happen, right? Like, I think I've seen your relationship with Nash when she was younger, and I've seen your relationship with Nash now. And like now you're adults speaking in an adult conversation, and like even have the moment where she's like, Mom, I don't want to talk about this. Like, it's not happening right now. I may not agree with you, but I'm gonna move forward with my decision. And you're like, great, this is what you've done. I've said my piece, and that's where we leave it at.
Right.
Um,
I
yeah.
mean, you have to have the ability to say what you want, and you have to be careful also what you say, how you say, because the way you say it can be, hurtful, or, so there's so many, nuances to the way you talk and say it, and it's learned behavior, absolutely. Like you said, our parents learned from their parents, and it was the culture at the time. I think the black sheep part is now a different name, right? It's progress, and that's, and I was called that because I wouldn't listen to the mold. I wasn't going to follow the mold. uh, as the first child who had gone to university from my father's side of the family, uh, brought me a lot of different, a different outlook. I wasn't going to be what they wanted because where they were or what they did. And some children in the families will say yes and do other things outside. I wasn't like that. I did what I said, and did what I, was open book. And I still am, an open book. But I enjoy people, and that's where it comes from.
So let's talk Fuima, because I feel like your mom. So I have these great memories of your mom, of being a little kid and her coming from, I think, London to. So I remember her coming to visit us in Nairobi, and I also remember her coming to visit us in Toronto. And she came with, okay, and this is exactly like you. Just want to make sure that, like, people understand that, like, she used to come with a bundle of love. Like, I don't remember ever walking into a space where she was and not feeling so much love from her. She always had a specific gift for each of us, and those gifts were very, like, she knew what we wanted. I and I still have this memory of, like, age. I must have been under 10, and she came and gave me a clown doll. I don't know how she knew I want. Like, I feel like in my consciousness I don't remember ever thinking that I wanted a doll like that, but it was the perfect toy for me. And I refer to myself as growing up that I'm a clown. I remember being like, that's who I am. And like, through art, theater, makeup, I got to do all those things. But I remember that toy being so special to me, and remember carrying it for like years. And I still have a visual in my head now at 40 of that toy and what that
Mhm.
toy made me feel. And I remember every one of us, like Shemaz got a different toy, Salima got a different toy, and she just knew what to give us. And it was such like, it was so, as a kid, it was so special because I got to be different. And we all got to have our own one-on-one special different from with her and feel love from her. And you do that exact same thing. Like when you walk into a room, you come in with so much love and you know exactly how to like make that person feel special. And I think, we live in a society where people don't know how to handle love. Like I think when you're like, I'm love, I'm giving you love, sometimes we're like, oh, I don't know how to receive this. So we people become standoffish or they're like, is she for real? Is she putting on a but you aren't. But I think because we don't know how to receive it, we become suspicious, right? I can't like I
Yeah,
know
there's
we've talked
never
about
a,
this.
right. There's never a bad intention. Always I don't believe in bad intentions anyway. What's the point? What is that? I don't even want to entertain that in the sense that if I'm making an effort to come somewhere, I either go because I love it or I don't go because I'm not interested. Very simple. I mean, it's a waste of energy, love, time. Time is, very important in your life, and spend it well, spend it with love. But if you are going to, meet people, do it with love and do it for a reason. I think sometimes because it's so like everybody's so muted. I want to make everybody laugh. I mean, there are times when you go and sit down and after a funeral, like for example, we went out for dinner, and everybody's sad. So I want to bring them out of that for just a few minutes, and change the little bit and talk about different things so they're distracted a little bit, and it all comes out of love for them. For me, it doesn't matter because I'm just trying to help the situation along. So the intention, and Bilkish, my sister, always, says,
Or
don't look at what she said, look at the intention. The intention was good. She has good intentions, and I think that's wonderful. I think, um, you know, uh, us as siblings have become much closer as well because of our communications. And my mother, when she passed away, left a really, really big hole in our lives because she was love itself. I've never known a woman more giving, um, generous, kind than her, and when I lost her, I kind of um, became a little closer to your ma because of her, right? So yeah.
um, okay. I guess so. I wanted to go back to the point where like, was there ever a point in your life where like you consciously make an effort to come into a space and make sure the intention is right when you're speaking, and even though the other person may not be able to receive the love, you are very conscious of saying, "I'm still going to give this." When like was there a point in your life where like that made that happen for you? Like was there a moment you remember that you said like you came into a space and maybe it didn't go the way you wanted it to go, but then you said, you know what, this is who I am and this is how I'm going to move forward and make that decision. Do you remember what that moment was in your life?
I don't remember the moment, but I remember times. There were times when I could see some of the differences that were being meted out to my mother, and she would always say, I did what I had to do. What they do is nothing to do with me. So it's really what they do is they're responsible for. What I do is my thing. And so that really struck me, and she always did the right thing, whether it was received correctly or not. Um, and she loved, her way of doing things. So, if it was appreciated what she did, or if it wasn't, she said, I did what I had to do in the right way. And how it's received or appreciated is on them. It's nothing to do with me. And now in these days, we always say, what you perceive is yours to carry. What I said was this, intention was this, and how you perceive it, or how you take it, or how you behave towards me
Right.
is yours.
And that was so evident when you were there with Ma. Like I remember, like in many conversations when I was with Ma and you were having conversations with her, it was so important. Like so, some days where she was 100% there and understood, and there's days when she wasn't there. But you were like, I think that I learned that from you, where you're like, you showed up no matter what her responses were. Yours were always consistent, and you always showed up in the way you were supposed to show up and how you thought was the right way. And it was beautiful. I think it was such a great learning lesson for me to say, oh, good, like this is how food shows up. I know, and Ma would have on days and off days, and she would not always be the kindest or not always say the kindest things, depending on what was happening with her and her body that day. But you were
Yeah.
always like, I don't care where she's, I still love her, and I'm still going to show up like this. And you consistently showed up like that, which I think was
It's
such a beautiful lesson. Yeah.
it's so funny, Yasmin, her daughter, right? Ma's daughter. So our cousin, she said, my God, my mother used to love you because when you called, and if she didn't answer, you would call 100 times until she did answer and call you back. It was because, if I didn't call her, she would say, I haven't heard from you for months. And I would have called her the week before or the day before or whatever, depending on, what she was going through.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, she became a symbol, a mother symbol for me after my mother, passed away. So, and I was very close with her more than anybody else, adult. I mean, elders, of our family, and yeah. And so you had to take her the way she was, right?
No, and I think like again to reinforce what your mom taught you, like you show up the way you're supposed to, you show up correctly the way you've been taught, and then the rest is like up to the other person on the other end to receive it the way they do. Okay, so I want to talk about like you talked about Fuima being this kind, generous person, and all these great things you talked about her, and you said you don't know other people like that. I would like to rebuttal that a little bit because I think you show up like her. Like, so not just you. So I think like up until Naveed's wedding, I just thought it was you. I was like, oh my God, this is so eminent of who Fuima is. And then I met the other Hirani sisters, who, again, also Carmichael also as well. But I think like the other, like you guys emanate your mom so much. You got like, I wasn't like until then to know them, but like all three of you together are such a great example of who your mom is and have such special pieces of your mom. Like Bookish was like funny and cheeky about things. No, Nurshina always got the cheeky, but the Bookish Halfway has this like, again, this idea of just coming in and just letting everything go and being like, I'm just gonna show up as love. And then you show up in like a more fun, like one-on-one special time with people. And the three of you, I think like you do know the women like your mom. It's the three of you. Like you guys show up in in exactly the way she used to show up for us. So I think even though she's gone, our essence of her still continues with the three of you guys. And every time I see you or I see any of your sisters, either on social media or in real life, I remember her that way. Like you take me back to being 10 and getting this little clown doll from your mom because of how you continue to show up like her. So yeah, I don't think she's gone physically, but not in spirit.
No, not at
Yeah.
all. We just celebrated. I celebrate her life more than her death now because it's very difficult. But yet I try to find peace and love and joy in her life. She did so much. She did for her community as well. I can't tell you enough. She was the first lady who spoke English in the town that she went to after she got married. She started the Girl Guides and the cadets for that community. She was the president of lady president of the council. She was on the national board for all these other things. So she was such a a doer. And if I can do half the things she did, oh my God, that would be fantastic. I mean, she was a pioneer, really, in her town for what she did. She set up, sewing classes for others because she knew how to do it, and she started these cadets and guides, and yeah. So, like I said, she's a very big part in my life. I have to tell you though that meeting my husband was another very, very big part that makes me who I am today.
Okay, let's I get like he's on my list of questions to ask you, like Mr. Like let's talk about it because I think like let's do this because we have time is running out. It always does. Like we've got about I'm trying to be very conscious of this. So like let's talk about your husband and then let's talk about Navruz right after that. Because I
Yeah.
think there's a good connection to those two. So let's talk about Mahmood Uncle for a second. How like the hilarious, like funny as F Mahmood Hojatti. Tell us about him, how you met him.
You wouldn't think he's funny, but until you get to know him, he's very quiet, he's very clever, he's very conscientious. He's my hero. He's our family hero. So I met him in England when we were doing our PhDs. We were both at Essex University and both in the chemistry department, and that's where we met. That's where the chemistry was made. And then we got married in 1982. So that's like almost 38, 39 years now.
Right.
And, we've moved. At that time, we moved to Halifax, Nova Scotia in Canada. And then since then, we've moved many places. But what he is he accepts me unconditional, makes me very accountable, is my support system. So, when you're growing up, you have your parents and your siblings who are your support system. And then you get married. And for me, it was I left England, so I didn't have that straight support and came to Canada. And then the US and Mexico and all these other places that we've lived in. So he became my support system. Don't forget, in life we always have these ups and downs, and every husband and wife goes through, all these things. But he has stayed true to, being my support system, whether I'm up, I'm down. I can't say enough about him. He helps me with everything. When I had my children, I didn't know how I was going to manage, because I was so life just becomes very difficult, and different, and yeah. So he's carried me through a lot. So I have to say, I think I made the right choice. It was obviously not seen. I was a rebel then, and because I married outside of our community. But I'm so glad I did because, it's taught me such a lot about love. I visited Iran, and the amount of love his family showed me was so great to me and my children. And to this day, they all show up wherever they need to show up. And if I want, Quran Khatam done for my mother, they're there. If I want special prayers, to be said, they will arrange it. It's just a whole new culture that I, was introduced to, and yeah, he's my special guy. And then we have children that, together, which are, I hope, we've taught them to be good human beings, to be caring, loving, gentle human beings, and I hope they do great in life, and have a really good path forward.
I have to say, like, the way you speak about him is so essential to who he is as a human being as well. I think, getting a chance to get one-on-one time with him when I came to visit you guys was, again, as an adult, I think, like, as a kid, I didn't care for any of those things. I wasn't, I was just so self-involved. But to get these moments with him, like, you're right, he's such a good person. And he, again, when he says it, he does it. Like, he's very true that he holds you accountable. And, like, he has kindness and love that just from every pore comes out. Um, in every situation, I feel like yeah, if you look back as a kid, like if we did something bad as a kid, he still would like, again, hold you accountable, but it was never from a anger place. And it was so beautiful to see. I think that's, as I grow up as a man, like I feel like the world tells you need to be here's what masculinity looks like, and here's what you need to fit into. And while he fits into some of that stuff, but he also challenges that stuff by just showing up as love. And the more this sort of movement that's happening within masculinity is where like we can be masculine, but we can also be love, and they don't have to be two separate things. But I think back in the past they used to be two separate things. So I feel like Mahmoud Uncle is really great at being that, and you're right. He supports you no matter where you are, no matter how crazy you are or how stressed you are, because we've seen that those moments at the wedding, and he's there
Yeah.
like, "Gonna be okay. Here's what we need to do." Like he is great. I love it.
He has solutions, and sometimes I say, just listen, don't want your solutions. But he has that, he
Right.
has in the back of his mind, how can I help her? What am I going to do to help her ahead of time?
So marrying into Iranian culture, Navruz
Yeah,
is a big deal there.
yeah.
And we were going to talk a little bit about how the Iranians celebrate Navruz, because we're hoping that this podcast will come out right before Navruz. So educate us on uh, a bit about the Iranian Navruz celebrations.
Okay, so the Iranian Navruz is very similar to what we know as Navruz, but in a very big way because it's their biggest holiday.
Right.
It's not religious, it's secular. For us, it's more religious. For them, it's secular. It doesn't matter what sect or religion you belong to, Navruz is Navruz and you celebrate. And it starts with the first day of spring. What a great day, right?
So
So
let's tell
that's
people, yeah, Navroz for us is it's a celebration of spring. For those who
right.
don't know about Navroz, that's a
Yeah.
celebration of spring, and the Somali community and the Iranian community celebrate that. And
It,
you're right.
it's yeah, it's a lot more communities, throughout Asia celebrate that, all the way from Turkey to Afghanistan and parts of Russia.
Okay.
So no Nowruz, has celebrations and in different ways and in different parts. For me, of course, as an Ismaili, I was introduced to Nowruz in Jamaat Khana and all the celebrations we do there. But this one is, before a week before Nowruz, you start to clean your house from top to the bottom. They call it khane takani, which means that you shake the house and you clean everything. And then you have a hafsin table, which is very similar to what we saw on Nowruz at Jamaat Khanas, but in a very grand way. And it has meanings for everything that they have. So the whole big part is to get together and party, of course, but also to bring in the new year. We have lots of things that we put together, and it's called a hafsin table. So hafsin means 7 S's,
Okay.
and they stand for symbolic things. And then I have to read them because I don't know them off by heart. So excuse me while I read them to you. So the half seen mean 7 S's is sabze. Sabze is sprouts, that we saw from wheat or things like that. Then samanu is wheat germ pudding, sweet pudding. So sabze is the symbol of rebirth and growth, which I said is we make it from wheat. It looks like grass. And then samanu is a pudding that they made from wheat germ, and it symbolizes power and strength. Senjet is Iranian olives. It's reddish, like small olives, but red, and that's a symbol of love. Samak is used across the Iranian world with
We'll wait till the voicemail is done.
yes, okay, okay. Went.
Okay.
Sorry about. Oops.
It's like when people called Ma and she wouldn't pick up, you'd keep calling her back. This is what's happening in the back.
I think so. Sawak is red and it's a symbol of sunrise. Serke is vinegar and it symbolizes patience. Sib is apple and that is a symbol of beauty. Sir is garlic and it's a symbol of health and medicine. And then the other things that we put together on that table is sombol, which is hyacinth, which is the spring's arrival. Seke is coins, which is symbol of wealth and prosperity. We have eggs, the symbol of fertility. We have a mirror, that's self reflection. We have
Mm.
candles, which is a symbol of enlightenment. Um, and then we have a book, either it's a Quran or a Shahnameh, it's a symbol of wisdom. So I had sent a photo. I'm afraid I don't have a table set up yet because the sprouts are just coming out and I haven't had a chance to set it up, but it will be set up before the weekend when we will have the celebration. And as we celebrate the Navruz. It's a really great experience. And we have, it's fun to have family and friends around, to bring in the new year, celebrate with them, with families, and it goes on for 13 days. Uh,
30 days?
no, no, 13,
Oh,
13 days.
13, 1
There's
3. Okay.
yes, it's just a holiday, a big holiday. And I think in Iran, everybody shuts down for holidays. And then at the end of those 13 days, we throw away the sprout in a stream so that it perpetuates life.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that with us. I think, this idea that spring is such a year of renewal, like I think in many, like not just like cultural, and I think even with the Wiccan world, like this idea that you're bringing new into the world. You want to clean out the old, so cleaning out your apartment, getting rid of the old, starting with the new. And symbolically, what great things to bring into your life, into your family, into your friends to move forward with. And to do it every year is a way of like rethinking about what happened last year and what we can do this year. Um, Thank you for sharing that with us. 'Cause I think that one, we get to learn a little about this. This was, I need to let people know, like, I want to do the podcast very differently this time because Fui said, I'll do it, but I need to add my spin on it. Very typical of
Absolutely.
her. And this was her educational spin on it. And I'm glad we get to put it in because it's a good way for us to know what else is happening out there for Navruz and also some things I think we can incorporate into our lives. Like, I would love to do a little small I've table and welcome those things into my life every year because it gives me a chance to reflect and and consciously pick and choose what you want to bring in. And those
Yeah,
sound
I
things
think
are
it'd be a
beautiful.
great. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I will definitely put up a photo in the podcast somewhere where we talk about the have seen table so people can see it. Thank you for sharing that with us. Our time is up. I know it's
Oh,
so quick, and I still have one, two, four more questions I want to ask you, but I guess this just means we'll have to do a round two at some point.
I have not a problem doing round two at all. I'd love to do this.
For the audience, like she was so hesitant to get to round one, and I thank you, Nash and Naveed, for getting her here. And now she wants a round two. This is music to my ears. Yay!
Look forward to seeing this one, and then let's whenever you're ready, I'll be ready for round two.
Well, I'm always ready for one-on-one chat with Fui. This is never a problem. But yeah, let's get this baby out there, and we'll do a round two soon. I want to thank you so much for taking time, Fui, to do this with me, for me to actually share this with you, because I talk about you so much. My friends know a lot about you, so this is nice for me to be able to put out in the world. So we're gonna wrap this up with our round of rapid fire, where I'll say one word at you, and you respond with the first word that comes to mind. Are you
Hmm.
ready?
Right, go.
All right. Nashman,
Daughter, love,
Naveed,
son.
Mex
Uh, wait. I have one word for Navid. You know, my friend.
oh, Mexico,
Ah, life I'd love to relive again.
San Francisco,
One of the best places I've lived in. Still have a home there. Hope to go there one day.
family,
Very dear, very important. My love, my life.
love.
Mahmoud.
Can you be any cuter? I can't get over this. Tequila,
Oh my God. One of the best drinks I was introduced to in Mexico. OMG.
okay, to introduce it to my life, and I love it as a drink as well. I want to thank everybody out there for taking time out of their busy schedules to tune in as Fui and I got to spend this special time and share it with you. I hope to see you guys next week. And happy Navruz.
Thank you, and you too. Talk soon.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.